This is the Spurs Postcast, your instant game reaction for the San Antonio Spurs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, just when we're ready to crown these guys and put them in the conversation of some of the Western Conference's best and maybe give ourselves a real idea of what they truly are for better and for worse, more so for better, coming off a really nice win in Boston. They follow it up by probably showing their worst loss of the season tonight in Minnesota. Welcome into the Spurs Postcast right here on Locked On Spurs. Of course, the number one sports podcast network in all of the land. That is the Locked On Podcast Network. The Spurs this evening go down 104-103 in Minnesota to the Timberwolves, blowing a 19-point advantage on the second of a back-to-back. He, of course, NBA champion Devin Brown. I'm Casey Viera, my friend, on a night that we saw probably for 3.5 quarters, one of the better defensive efforts that we've seen from this team all season, on the verge of their third consecutive game, holding a team under 100 points. It ends in about as miserable fashion as possible. And unfortunately, it's a byproduct of a lot of familiar things coming back to bite them. Devin, you got me?
Yeah, definitely. All right. No, I got you, Casey. I got you. Yeah, definitely. We saw some, some things that, have been, plaguing the Spurs, in previous games. But, at the same time, we saw a lot of great things, too. Some guys stepping up. Wemby back in the starting lineup, which was huge. But like I said, we'll talk about that. Let's break things down. Casey, if you can hear me, let's get going.
This is what you'll be talking about.
All right, now Minnesota was also coming off of back-to-back. They lost last night 146-134 at Cleveland. Of course, the Spurs winners in Boston 195, got in late last night, all the usual stuff with the back-to-back. But they did not show tired legs in the slightest. Going up 16, a 16-0 run to start the game, actually. It's the first time they've done something like that since 96, 97. They hit 6 of their 11 threes in the first quarter, ultimately a 7-point lead going into the break, ultimately a 13-point lead at halftime. Vic had 16 and 6 points. Expanded even further, the Spurs go up 19 points midway through the third quarter. A game that the Timberwolves look hapless. Every little semblance of offense is just about squashed out from the Spurs defense, and it's looking like a situation where they're going to go in and have a wire-to-wire victory against a playoff caliber team in the Minnesota Timberwolves. It didn't work out that way. Ultimately, mind you, the Timberwolves at this point, up until the 4:16 mark in the the 2:15 mark of the fourth quarter, did not have a lead. They chipped away. Anthony Edwards, big time buckets down the stretch. He had 7 points in about a 2.5 minute span to ultimately put Minnesota, on top 100-98. Him and Fox, they trade baskets, and it puts San Antonio in a spot where they're down by 1. With 19 seconds left to go. It sets up Victor in a very similar spot that he iced the game in Boston the night before. Free throw line extended jumper off the mark. Offensive rebound, Champagnie, kick out. Fox wide open for 3, misses it. Ball game. Spurs lose 104-103. They're outscored 33-18 in the fourth quarter. Victor, only 4 field goal attempts in the fourth quarter, missed them all. 29-7, his final line. Fox, 12-8-4, 6 of 19 shooting. Castle, 11-6-5, 7 turnovers. Just a lot of the same things. I know. Yeah, I know. It's head and hands. A lot of the same things that have hurt him in these spots, it hurt him big time tonight.
Yeah, definitely. So, you don't want to be critical because as a player that's played for them, I don't mind Victor taking, that shot in the last moments, because, like you said, he's hit that before. Gets tipped out to Fox. He got a good look as well. But it was some of the things like, we go back to the first quarter and they started off great. Like they were on top of it. Hey, it didn't matter, whatever was going on. They were on top of this game and it looked well for pretty much all game. And then, it's like I mentioned, last night, that fourth quarter when Minnesota goes to a certain lineup, it just kind of went wrong. Some of the best things that I can take, as a former player from this is I'm gonna rely on Pop to go when we build that rock, and it's funny that the new facility is called Rock. When we have that rock out there, we got to keep pounding at that thing all year long, and it's gonna make us better, Casey, later on in the season. And so a loss like this will get you better as far as you can show a lot of film for rotations and things like that. But this was a tough one. But like I said, you can learn a couple of things from this. But all in all, this was a tough loss.
Minnesota, as a result, now pulls within a game and a half back of the Spurs for the 2 spot in the Western Conference. Right now, Timberwolves currently tied for the 3rd right now in the conference. Some expanded numbers. Spurs, 39% from the fields. They end up hitting 13 of their 38 threes. The turnovers were not ideal. They went through a stretch where they had 10 possessions in the fourth quarter and they turned the ball 5 of them. In 5 turnovers in 10 possessions from the inside the 7-minute mark on. Timberwolves had 17 points off turnovers on that front. It's just when things are not going well on the offensive side. Tonight was really concerning because when they go in these spots where they can really hit a rut and the offense really stagnates, it can really stagnate. And they find themselves in situations where they just teams can't get going. They can't take out of that. And I mean, to a certain extent, yeah, that's basketball. But this game felt a lot like the Cup game, where the Spurs were just getting beat up in that fourth quarter because of effort plays. It was more competitive down the stretch in crunch time. And they still had a shot to win the game. It's not just like the second possession. But it's hard to not look at this and see the common theme of why this Timberwolves squad is one that scares me. I don't want them match anywhere near Minnesota in the playoffs. And by the way, this clinches the tiebreaker.
Correct.
They only play 3 times this year. Minnesota won the first 2, so they now have the tiebreaker, which is big in its own right in itself. But they have the exact recipe that just gets this team. They're physical with Victor. They have different guys that can throw and be physical at Victor. They have perimeter shooters, and they have one of the best players in the world. I mean, in their Spurs defense, that's a recipe to beat a lot of teams. But I really don't like that matchup, and for the exact reasons we saw tonight in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so Casey, I'm going to piggyback off of what you're saying, and Minnesota, and it's like we talked about, like it was a great win with Boston. Minnesota's a different character because you have these teams around the league that they don't fear you and they love to play you. Mm-hmm. And they love everything that Victor brings to the game, and Minnesota wants to take advantage of all of that. Because they want to make Victor, play on the other end. And they do. They make Victor work. When the Spurs are off on offense, they make Victor work. And like you're saying, Minnesota is a team that you don't want to face because they want to play you. You look forward to teams that don't want to play you, Casey, but in this sense, Minnesota loves playing you. And they showed it tonight. The Spurs were never ever, and they had probably about 5 or 6 opportunities to get rid of Minnesota. And it started early in that first quarter, but they couldn't do it. And this is definitely a unfortunate loss tonight, Casey.
Yeah, and you bring up the opportunities to put them away. Our turning point tonight where things could have been. It could have been the kill shot. Didn't work out that way in the slightest.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
So 7 and change to go. Minnesota gets it back within 6, 87-81. Victor is hit. Victor checks back into the game, should say. He was out of the game. Mitch gets him back in. And the first possession he returns, he gets fouled on a 3-point attempt by Gobert, one of the reckless closeout fouls. Gobert doesn't like it. He picks up a tech. So it turns into 4 free throws. Victor knocks down all the free throws. They go up by 10. That's a huge momentum swing that they didn't take advantage of. And that could have essentially been it. You get another bucket. Heck, even if they don't get a bucket, which they didn't, I mean, that could have been a 6-7 point swing, but fine. You still end up possession up 10. It was possessions like that that makes it frustrating, because they had more than enough chance to put this thing away by the fault of the Timberwolves in their own right. Like that, Gobert getting hit on the flagrant on a closeout and exacerbating it even more, picking up a tech. Like, that's a careless miscue by Minnesota, and the Spurs can't take advantage. That's a frustrating touch. That's what makes, this loss tonight frustrating. Situations like that they can't capitalize.
Yeah, all those things add up. Like, when you're talking a 1-point game, or I'm sorry, a 1-point defeat, you start looking at a lot of things. I mean, as a coach, you go back to one of the players making 1 of 2 free throws in the second quarter, and you go, oh, if he hits that, we go to overtime. Listen, as a coach, you can't do things like that. You got to look at it like this. Somewhere along the lines, we weren't meant to win this game. Mm-hmm. That's how Coach Mitch and the coaching staff have got it. They have to look at it that way, and you move on and you get ready for the Thunder. Did you give one up tonight? Yes, you did. But you got to get ready for the Thunder in a couple of days. But, Casey, at the end of the day, the Spurs had a lot of things that you can take away as a positive for tonight. Mm-hmm. And you got to move with that. And I hope that Mitch does.
Mm-hmm. And the positive, maybe that they do have the biggest positive. We're talking about matchups. On to the next one. The matchup that they have on deck, of course, Oklahoma City, and perhaps, as we've learned, maybe match up with them better than anybody in the conference does with them right now. So coming up on the other side of the break, we're going to get ready and talk about how the Spurs can respond and go 4 for 4 with the Thunder, or against the Thunder so far this season, coming off, or I should say tonight, coming off a tough one, a 104-93 defeat at the hands of the Minnesota Timberwolves. But before we get to that, let's have a conversation about our friends that drive this program. Big time to be playing big on FanDuel right now, heading into the weekend, or hopefully you already did this over the weekend, especially on Friday, because they're starting to feel different during basketball season. Making Fridays, FanDuel is even better, because before the games tip off, they're giving fans a new way to kick off the weekend. How are they doing that? Well, it's called NBA Happy Hour. It's your official pregame and a limited time window where the special offers, they're right inside the app before the action starts. So we had one earlier this week. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern, it's where you want to check in, because during the happy hour, they always bring something new, boost, bonuses, surprises. And when you do the job right, you take advantage of it, you ultimately can win big. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour. Again, every Friday, 6 to 7:30 Eastern time. That's NBA Happy Hour, only on FanDuel. Of course, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. And when you win, do something good with your money and check out Game Time as well. During basketball season, there's nothing like being in the building. The energy, the crowd, the first big run that everyone gets on their feet. Fans want to be there for those moments, not stuck refreshing screens or guessing what tickets are really going to cost after all those ugly fees and whatever. So that's where Game Time comes in. You get the app. It gives the fans the advantage back, making it incredibly easy to score tickets. Fast, simple, without all the guesswork. Straightforward, intuitive. Get tickets with just a few taps. It's simple. It's easy. That's all we ask for, right? And you just want to know what you're paying at the end of the day, and they tell you that. So take the guesswork out of buying your tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today and get in on the action. Most certainly not the Spurs night tonight on the road in Minneapolis, going down 104-103, blowing a 19-point victory on the tail end of a back-to-back. But good chance for them. The good news, I should say, for them is the chance to come back and play a team, the best team in the league, at least record-wise, in their place, a place where they already took care of business less than a month ago, and the chance to go 4 for 4 against them in less than a month span. So I guess kind of two ways I want to, glass half full, glass half empty, I guess, dynamic of this. Well, I guess we'll start with the glass half empty, considering, in reference to the loss. Is something like this when you got Oklahoma City on deck, just kind of ease something like this tonight that you're just like, get rid of it real fast because, next game you're always thinking ahead, but it's like, okay, best team in the league, been awesome against them. It's our chance to bounce back. And if we do, at the end of the day, it's a 2-3 road trip. And pretty
All right, so let's start from the beginning. As a coach, you got to hammer in some of these things, Casey. There were some mistakes tonight, especially in that second half against Minnesota, that led to them sticking around in this basketball game. All right. And as a head coach, that's what I have a problem with. So we have to address those things. Now, we'll break down on the film what those possessions were. Now, moving to your next point, getting ready for OKC. We've had a lot of success there. So when we land in OKC, that should, feel like familiar territory. All right. So when we get to the hotel, a lot of us will be in the same room. A lot of us will know, what's going on. But you're walking in there with a confidence. All right.
Mm-hmm.
You know that they're number one in the conference, but we know what it is that we can beat these guys. All right. Number 3, part of your question that you were asking me. When it comes to shaking off one and getting ready for the other, hey, as soon as those wheels touch down in OKC, Minnesota's over. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if Mitch is like Pop on the plane, on your computer or iPad, whatever, you're going to that player that you had a problem with defensively and you fix that on the plane. Don't carry it over to Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
Once we get there, we got to take care of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
We let this one go. It's done. And we'll move on from there.
It's interesting because the Spurs, I feel like since the last of those 3 Oklahoma City games on Christmas, ironically enough, they feel like a different team and not in the better of senses. Hold on. Let me finish. I'm not saying the ship is sinking, but the ship has very much been acknowledged out there on the ocean. Like the book is out, and they knew that. I mean, you knew that was going to be the case. You knew that they were going to level off, not to the point that it's going to spiral this season, because it's not. But right now, I think what we're seeing from this Spurs squad, and this isn't saying anything crazy because they went into the second Oklahoma, or the Christmas Oklahoma City game on a 7-game win streak, I guess 6 when you consider that it was a 2-game set. Either way, they were playing much better basketball than they were right now. The point that I'm getting at is that since that time, I don't know how much of it is them being figured out. I don't know how much of it is a regression to the means. I don't know how much of it is the law of averages. I don't know how much of this is just kind of who we thought they were coming into the season. Maybe it's a little bit of both. Right. But it's not the same team that went in there and beat Oklahoma City, that beat them there. Because I look at that squad that was there a month ago, and I'm not seeing Stephon Castle put on some of these just disastrous showings like it's been the case over the past few nights. You're not seeing that. And Dylan Harper may be a little bit of an exception because he's a rookie, but they were shooting infinitely better when they got together the first time. Can they go in there and beat Oklahoma City? Absolutely. Will they?
Yeah.
I mean, they can. But I think that it's. I have a lot more red flags, cautionary red flags around this team right now going into the second meeting compared to where we were around Christmas time.
I love that you say that because the first time Wemby and Castle didn't play against Minnesota. So if you're a fan like we are, you feel good going into that game having those two in the lineup. And they started off excellent for that game, correct? But that's what the NBA is about, Casey. It's about, coaches being able to make great adjustments on the fly. All right. This is the highest level of basketball. So you got that, that's why they have 7 coaches to be able to do things like that. But here's what I'm going to say, Casey. Wemby is a phenomenal player. But the Spurs, at the end of the day, they have to figure out where he's going to be most effective. And right now, to be honest with you, they're letting him figure out the Spurs instead of the Spurs figuring out him. And I'm talking about offensively. Defensively, you already know what Victor is. I'm talking about offensively. Because to have someone fading away at 7-5 from the free throw line for a game winner is concerning at the least. I'm going to leave you with that.
I wish you didn't say something so prophetic on our way out the door here because we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
But I will say this. That's the perfect segue to tease what we got going on our Spurs Squad show tomorrow. Because when we do, you, myself, Jeff Garcia, when the three of us do get together, there's a lot to talk about because we're going to hit on the Oklahoma City game, whether they can go 3 for 3. We're going to hit on this identity crisis that they're going through. Is it really a crisis or just something, a little hiccup along the way? And we're going to hit on the fact that Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper have really hit youthful walls over the past few days. That's on the Spurs Squad show coming up Monday, tomorrow, or today, whenever you check in, just after 9 o'clock right here on Locked on Spurs. And as always, when we have these little get-togethers, when we get up on the outside the door, we show you guys love for checking in with us for the wins and the losses. Obviously, you got 2 games over the weekends. Maybe you would have gotten spoiled getting 2 wins, but instead you got a really good one and then a really bad one. You take what you can get. It's the NBA. It happens. But anyways, be sure to also check out Jeff on the Title Pod bright and early tomorrow with your day-to-day usual content for Locked on Spurs. Not the Spurs night tonight. They blow a 19-point lead out there in the Twin Cities. They go down 104-103 to Anthony Edwards and company and try to bounce back Tuesday in Oklahoma City, which obviously Devin and I will be right there for, as we always are, on the tail end of the Spurs postcast right here on Locked on Spurs. So for my good buddy, Mr. Devin Brown on the road, I'm Casey Viera. Hope you all had a nice weekend and have a good start to your work week. Talk to you later tonight.